So, should agencies be looking after the well-being of the people it fires that then face long-term unemployment?
Well, the first thing is I have a rule in the Tara Clinic that there's no shoulds, because shoulds are just sort of filled with judgment. And I think what's more helpful and effective is to look at the reality of situations. So in the event that this is coming from someone who is either top down, who is the person that's going to be letting someone go, or if it's from bottom up, so the person that may have been just let go, or had an experience of being let go and then had long-term unemployment. First of all, we really can't predict the future. So how do we know that this person is going to face long-term unemployment? Sure, COVID is a thing and it's harder to get a job now. I don't know necessarily the stats in your industry, though, you know, for some people, finding work has been challenging over 2020. However, in terms of whether or not it's the agency's job to look after you afterwards, unless there is, again, I'm not a lawyer, so I just want to really make that clear, that you need to speak to a legal representative about this if it's a thing. But really, unless there's a legal issue like a psychological injury or unfair dismissal or those sorts of things, that Australia as a whole has a policy and a law against doing all of those things, then perhaps there might be something there where the agency has done something wrong, you've gone through the litigious process and you've come out the other side and you end up with some kind of outcome. But really, outside of that, once you're no longer in the organisation, you're not their family anymore. There are things like the EAP services that, for the most part, larger organisations usually have some kind of connection with. And an EAP service, I have no idea what EAP actually stands for, but it's
Interview Assistance Program.
Hey, there we go. Thank you. So it is a program that assists employees, and that's really what it is. It's a certain amount of sessions, either on the phone or face to face with a psychologist or a counsellor, to be able to work through either work related stuff or stuff that's happening in your personal life that's impacting on work related stuff. And my understanding is that there's a bit of a kind of buffer period after not being in the organisation any longer. So, you still have access to that. Though it's not up to the agency to force that upon anybody. We are adults and we have the capacity to make choices for ourselves. And, if there were mental health issues that led to the moving on from the organisation, then perhaps this is an opportunity to look at, okay, what could we do differently next time, ahead of time, so that we don't have to get to this end point.
Jazz, how do you feel about this one?
This is a complicated question, so I had to, kind of think about this a little bit, because well-being is a very loose term, right? It's just in the same ilk of at the moment defining what essential services are, really, right? Because, well-being, what is it? So I'm assuming we're talking about this in the context of mental health. That would this kind of implies that employers in general should be responsible for people's mental health, which I disagree with. I think employers should be doing whatever they can to support vulnerable people and enable them to, or people that have kind of mental health problems, to just have the same workplace or healthy relationships with co-workers and the same opportunities that everyone else, and to make sure that they're not making things worse while people are in employment. So I think that's my point of view on this one. Long-term unemployment is something that, again, I feel like that's really hard to predict, right? When people lose their job, which is horrible also on the person that has to execute that, by the way. For people that leave an organization, sometimes it feels like, oh my God, I'm never going to work again, right? And then the next minute, life is almost so much better and you find a better opportunity. I'm generalizing here, and that's not happening to everyone. But I think this question in itself is making so many assumptions. Like the way I read it, it's like the word firing is also a very complicated one in Australia, because technically you can't fire anyone for mental health reasons, and anyone that would do that, I mean, that's the most horrendous thing to do. I doubt, personally, I don't think that's an option. You can't fire mentally people that are not stable or not doing well. So I don't think this is what this is implying. So anyway, so bit of a ramble, but I think overall, no, I don't think agencies should be responsible for the long term well-being of people in general, no matter what their future career is, because, am I also now going to be in charge of the well-being of people that are going to go on to better jobs? That's kind of the other side of the coin. But I think we need to do whatever we can to make sure that people are okay while they are in employment. That's our role, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely, so what you said earlier as well, of like it's basically when it comes to like legal responsibility of employers, it's your responsibility to not make things any worse. And of course, once your employment contract ends, then you are out in the world. But I guess, there's so many great communities out there. It's important to have a good support network around you, and to start to take matters into your own hands.